Now, officials in Quebec are still trying to figure out what exactly caused several passengers on a flight headed towards Florida to fall ill. There were 185 people on board the plane, and hours after the incident, many of those passengers are still waiting at the airport. So let's bring in Megan Roberts, who's been tracking this story from the beginning. Megan, what's the latest?
Well, we just heard from those airport officials, Natasha, kind of laying out what they know and also what they don't know, what they can't answer, because we are hearing from the airport. So we're still waiting to hopefully hear more from Air Transat that was running the flight to answer a few more of the questions that we have. But this is what we understand happened. The incident happened when the flight was still on the ground. This was headed to Fort Lauderdale from Quebec City. And they were de-icing the plane because you can see the conditions at the airport there. It's very cold, it's very icy. During that de-icing, there was a problem with the ventilation, and that is when these passengers started reporting feeling symptoms of illness. People were feeling burning in their throats and in their eyes. People were feeling nauseous and even vomiting. So all of the passengers were taken off the plane, and then a number of them from there were also helped by paramedics. Let's hear from the airport officials about how those passengers are doing.
We have doctors and nurses here at the airport right now that take charge of the passenger, and the airline is taking care of their passenger too. Right now, on 185 passengers, only 12 felt discomfort and 5 were transported by ambulance to the nearest hospital.
Now, CBC actually caught up with one of the passengers who got off of that flight after everything happened. And this is what she said that happened. She mentioned that there were actually a couple of babies on board coming from this passenger. So she said that made her sad. This is the passenger that we talked to. So a couple of babies, she says, that were on board, and that made her sad. She said that what happened, to her knowledge, was that they didn't close off the ventilation during that de-icing process. And the other thing that she said is that it took too long to evacuate. Now, the airport official was asked some of those questions. She said she didn't know whether there were any infants on board. And she says from her information that she was getting that the evacuation happened quite quickly, but that was something that we should follow up with the airport, with Air Transat. So we're hoping to get more information about that. But 5 people taken to hospital after feeling that illness, the rest still waiting.
So what happens to those passengers?
Well, they're still hoping to get to Fort Lauderdale. They're waiting at the airport now. They were giving meal vouchers so they can have a meal. And we understand that a plane is on the way from Toronto to Quebec City so that they can take them to Fort Lauderdale. They're expected to leave Quebec City at around 5 p.m. local time, but it's still up in the air quite literally because the plane has to get to Quebec City first, load everyone back in, and then get to Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, thank you, Megan.